Hello, welcome to Nintendo Nostalgia, episode 212. I'm your host, Jacob Rush, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Ryan Black and Joshua Taylor, and we are back, and we are playing with Power. Gentlemen, how are you doing tonight?
We are doing just fine, I believe, to speak for everybody.
I'm great.
It's good to hear. I know we're starting a little later tonight. It's 10 o'clock, our time EST. A little past that because we welcome for the first time to our show a brand new guest. We have not had a new guest in quite a while, guys. Eric Bailey, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Jacob, for having me. Appreciate being around on a podcast. This is fun. We talk to each other about stuff. It's great.
Fun stuff that we love, and it's simple and innocent in today's crazy world.
Perfect.
Fun to visit. Cool. Well, so Eric, we're about to. I don't think we should waste any time. We told you about it before, just a little bit ago, but let's get into what we've been radical rexing about. Oh well, Eric, let's start with you.
Yeah. So one thing I'm excited about is I have a daughter who is 5 years old. She's actually nearly 6, and she is learning how to read. And for someone like me, that is really cool. Like when we do bedtime stories, it used to be me telling her stories. Now I can put a book in front of her.
Yeah.
And she has to sound it out, and it takes a while, but she is really learning how to read, and that's cool for me. That's what excites me right now in life.
That's awesome. Isn't it just like shocking and mind blowing to remember what they were? You know,
it is surreal. Yeah.
Oh man, it is. My daughter just turned 4
Cool.
about a month ago or so. Yeah, a little more than a month, but she turned 4, and I mean, I'm just amazed, and it makes me tear up when I see her. I had a surreal moment today, as simple as this, but. She likes to get the mail. So when I got home, I dropped her off at the end of the driveway. It's a long drive, a little bit of a longer driveway. And she's like, all right, Dad, go pull in next to the house. So she told me. And when I pulled in, she opens the mailbox and gets the mail. And she's walking on up and holds that mail tightly to her chest in her little coat. And it just melts my heart as her father, because it's just like, man. You know, this little kid's growing up, and she's so proud that she got that mail and brought it up to the house for Dad, you know, and it's little things like that really just put a smile on your face.
What
you
a
know?
beautiful example of wholesome joy. Just a little thing you can appreciate and be happy about. I love it.
Amen, man. Amen. I love it. Thank you. Anything else that's got you excited as of late?
Nope. Just the kids.
Can't beat that. That's good. Some people, their kids are not bringing them joy.
That's true. Yeah, no, mine are definitely a blessing.
Good deal. Josh, you know, what about you? You haven't been on really much in a while, so why don't we swing over to you?
Yeah, I've been lazy. Well, I guess kind of to tie in what you all were just talking about, actually, my daughter, turned six fairly well. Actually, shoot, it's already October, isn't it? That was back in July. Anyhow, she's been learning how to read and things like that. So that's been fun, and to tie it back into gaming even a little bit, we've been playing Mario Galaxy some, and I've let her read some of that story, that Rosalina reads also. Yeah. That's been kind of fun. But yeah, that's definitely something special and something kind of worrisome when me and the wife are trying to spell things back and forth to each other, and she's starting to figure it out. You can't hide anything anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, outside of that, really, I guess in the gaming space of things, with working from home still, and not knowing exactly what to do, maybe in the most productive of ways, been kind of gaming a decent bit, hopping around a lot. Crash 4 has been pretty awesome. I actually dabbed a little bit in Chrono Trigger. It's my first time poking at that game. I'm reviewing Oddworld, New and Tasty, the Switch port of it. Doesn't come out for a few more weeks, I believe, but that's been interesting. Can't talk too much about that, though. And we've been planning out, almost like 2 months now. Almost every Sunday night, we've had a group of 4 of us playing Fortune Street on the Wii. So that's kind of one of those weird older odd games that I don't feel like very many people talk about, and it's still pretty good. I wish they would bring it back to Switch. Outside of that, really, I will say, again, being locked up so much, I love getting out. And we went to this place called Ice Cream, and it's in Ripley, West Virginia, and it's like this horror themed ice cream kind of shop. And it's almost hard to describe without showing it to you, but it's nothing like too freaky. Well, I was getting ready to say it's nothing like too overly freaky. It's pretty family friendly. But in the restroom, there is like this clown staring directly at the toilet, and that was uncomfortable. But no, I mean, it was just one of those fun things. We got to go as just as us, our family of 3, and that was just fantastic to get out. And they have these specialty things. I got this big Goonies milkshake thing. It was just good to finally go do something again, because I don't like being locked up in the house like this for too long. But yeah, anyhow, that's about all I got going on.
Joshua, real quick, props on the Battletoads hat. That is really sick and cool. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. I had to get something. I think I got this on the Rare website.
Cool. Oh, they're back, and hopefully that game keeps selling. And
and
if it does,
please
bring it to the Switch. I think it could happen.
It's good. It's a good.
Ryan, what about you, brother? How are you doing, man?
Well, today was a really big day for me. I did have my interview, and I think it went pretty well. I really hope that they choose me. They're filling 3 positions, and I was definitely a very very tempting candidate with all of my experience I have with their ecosystem and just working with them in general from my current job. So I think that I've got a good leg up there. I'm just hoping that they choose me as one of the 3, and I can start working there remotely, and then start saving for things and paying for things that need to be paid for and all that fun stuff. COVID's kind of dragged us back financially, so we're ready to pick things up again. And other than that really cool interview that I got today, I've been playing. I just played and finished the Pokemon TCG on the Virtual Console on the 3DS. So I'm playing my 3DS again. Strangely enough, it's so weird to say. And then it's all you guys' fault. You guys got me into playing Federation Force with you guys. And so then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna pop on the eShop, see if there's anything that I don't have that I really want. And then there was that TCG right there, so I picked that up. And then after a bit, I was like, you know what? I need to play Metroid Samus Returns again. So I've been playing through that and enjoying it a lot. We just recently had the Super Metroid episode, and so kind of getting hyped for all the just different Metroid stuff. And then, hopefully soon we'll get some new Metroid news in the form of a 2D or 3D Metroid, Metroid Prime information or whatever. But I'm really excited for everything Metroid right now. So yeah, things are looking pretty good. And then let's see if there's anything else gaming of note that I've been doing. I know I played a little bit on the Switch, but nothing like too big or fancy. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Do my usual Duel Links, trying to get a little bit of stream in here and there. I did start up Fragile Dreams, and I think I'm going to actually stream it before the end of this month, and show some of the intro stuff. It's a really, really cool game. I forgot how good it was. I started playing. I'm like, wow, this is great. Like the story and everything, it's very moving, and I'm excited to kind of show people that game.
Neat. Very cool, man. Well, I'm glad your interview went well, and we're all hoping and praying good things for you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah. Myself, what have I been radically wrestling about? For the first time, I actually have a lot. Last Friday, I had, because my birthday is my 30th, the big 3-0 is this coming Thursday. So last Friday, we had, not all of you guys could be there, obviously, but we had some of our NOS crew guys who help us with our show and whatnot, and Tom, Kyle, and Traven got to come over to my place. My landlords are not home, so we actually have like the whole place to myself. And we just ordered a bunch of pizza and nachos and just junk food, and we just hung out. It was actually really cool. We spent like 2 hours because Tom, people don't know, Tom, he's been on our show. Tom's actually a pastor as well, and Tom went on a preaching rant for almost 2 hours and like really dived into like scripture, and it was just totally impromptu, just from regular conversation, and it was, man, I was just like, I didn't want him to stop, but I was afraid we were going to play any video games, so I was just kind of like, all right, well, after 2 hours in, we're like, well, he said something about like, I don't know, like the disciples and the Pharisees. We were getting into all that stuff, and they said, settle it and smash, right? You know, that's what Jesus said to the Pharisees or something like that, which segued us into me downloading Steve finally for Smash Bros. Ultimate, and we just played Smash for a couple hours and then went about our ways. But it was fun. It was great to see the guys. We haven't had any game nights at all because of COVID and because of my own life circumstances as well too over the past year. But it was fun, and really appreciated everyone who could come. And Traven got me some eShop money, and I ended up getting Ori and the Will of the Wisps. And is that what it's called? Will of Wisps?
I'm getting them confused. Is that the first or the second one?
The second one.
Second one.
Blind Forest
Yeah.
is the first one.
Ah, yeah, you're right.
And
Good games.
I bought Moon. It's like a JRPG from the PlayStation days, but it was what highly inspired Undertale, one of the other games. And I haven't really played much of it, but I see exactly why, because it's all about basically Moon. I've only played a little bit. I don't know if have you guys played Moon at all or heard about it much?
I've heard it's an anti-RPG, but I haven't played it myself.
Yeah, which is kind of like right up my alley, because I don't like RPGs very much. Which is why I loved Undertale, because it was like not your typical RPG. It was so different, you know. And it really hooked me. Not to mention the story to music, but yeah, it's basically like the whole intro tutorial, which I pretty much got through, is you playing as a knight, and you're basically just pummeling through everything. You kill the dog, you kill the random creature that just came around the corner. Like, you're just killing everything for no reason. And it's like, basically your character has to come back and like heal all the wreck that the hero did. You know? Because, you know, in RPGs, you gotta like grind, you gotta kill things for no reason to build your level up. And they kind of like take the twist on that, as the hero's actually ultimately the bad guy. He, from everything he destroyed to kill the big bad dragon, he's more of a villain than he is a hero. So you have to come in and kind of heal everything. So I'm not very far into it, but it's definitely, you can see that it's definitely a PlayStation game, like the graphics and the way that the characters move and stuff. But I'm very interested. I mean, the whole thing is about loving your enemies. And that's what you do in Undertale. You gotta, you know, spoilers, you can either kill them or you can find your way out of the fight and love them, you know. So show mercy, whatever. But I'm excited to really play that one a little bit more. And then just tonight, before we were getting on here to record, I finally turned on Ori. And you know, I can already tell. I heard people talk about, you know, like with the first Ori, I got it last year and I really liked it. But I won't lie, like it was good, but it wasn't as good as I felt like everyone hyped it up to be. Like, I felt like the first Ori, everyone was like, "This is amazing. It's just like Super Metroid." And yeah, it was fine, but nothing about it really blew me away. But the next one, they say like this one kicks the other one in the head and makes it look like it's garbage, you know. And I've only played like maybe 20-ish, 30-ish minutes of it. And so far, I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, there's already, you can tell by just how successful the first one was, you can tell they got a major budget upgrade for this new one. And I see that. I see there's a lot more cutscenes. There's a lot more like, I can just tell in the art, it looks so much more brighter and so much more alive. It's really, really cool. And even the way I just got, before I stopped here or where I paused, I just got like my first like actual attack upgrade, and it just feels so good. In the first one, you have like your first attack is kind of like this little electric current that like will shock whatever's around you. Never felt satisfying. This one feels satisfying. It feels like kind of like Kirby,
Yeah, the spark
when he's got
power.
the long stick and stuff. You know what I'm talking about? He just well, he's got a million power ups, but yeah, it just kind of feels like that. Like it's just really satisfying when you hit your enemies with this move. So I'm liking it. I escaped a wolf and had to smack his face with a fire torch, which was pretty cool and pretty intimidating too. Like again, it was just out of nowhere. I think there's a lot more boss fights in this game, if I'm not mistaken. Whereas the first one only had like one. I think it was like one main boss fight. But so that's really cool. So I'm excited to dive into those. Yeah, I downloaded Steve. Steve's fun. I'm not going to play with him much. I'm not good with him at all, but I'm actually not good at the game anymore in general. I've realized because I never play. When you don't play, you just fall behind. But and then yeah, my actual birthday is this coming Thursday, so finally getting Mario All-Stars. My girlfriend got it for me way back when it came out, but making me wait till my actual birthday. So I'm going to play that. I'm excited to dive in. And I had a great date with my girlfriend on Sunday, which is awesome. And then yeah, just going to hang out with my family next Saturday for my birthday. So I'm 30. I hope I get my walker that I asked for my birthday. I'm finally there, guys. It's
Welcome to the
time
club.
for the baby of the show has finally grown up. I'm the youngest on this show here, so. But yeah, that's what I'm Radical Reaction about. I know that's a lot, but that's good because I actually haven't been Radical Reaction that much in general lately. So, but besides all that, guys, I really think we should just start segueing into the topic at hand. Today's topic, I got to choose because this episode is going to air on my birthday this Thursday, October 22nd. And we were like, what would be a fun topic? Typically, we like to keep all the month of October spooky themed. And this isn't necessarily not spooky themed, I guess. I think from what we've seen of the game, was very creepy.
Yeah, I think it's there.
Yeah. So I felt like, kind of fitting. But we wanted to make it fun and a little different than what we typically do. So guys, what we're talking about today is a little game that's expecting a sequel soon. You may have heard of Breath of the Wild. Well, today is our predictions of what we are hoping and expecting of Breath of the Wild 2. All right. Well, Eric, since you are our guest, I would love to invite you first to the floor here.
Sure.
And maybe go ahead and explain to maybe some of our listeners who haven't, maybe they've not caught up with the times and they haven't seen, like, what do we know of Breath of the Wild 2? And we talked about it being creepy and whatnot. So why don't you roll us in here, man?
Yeah, no problem. I think the important place to start is the context of the original game. It has quite a legacy to live up to. I mean, we're talking about a game that I'm sure many of us put hundreds of hours in. And for a sequel How much are they going to be faithful to that format or depart from it? That's exciting. And honestly, even the diehard fans waiting on info, drooling for it, we haven't seen a ton. We've seen kind of a teaser clip, kind of foreshadowing this new enemy emerging, and maybe a more subterranean, closed-in environment, possibly. That's just conjecture and speculation at this point. And it's my understanding with the new Hyrule Warriors game, I have no idea what that's going to play in, because that was a surprise to a lot of people. We thought, well, there's going to be Breath of the Wild.
Right.
Breath of the Wild 2, that's going to be the Zelda canon for the Switch. And now we got more stuff to work with. So that's where we're at. In terms of my prediction, I just want to throw out an opening thought. I don't know where you guys stand in terms of your rankings on the Zeldas, but I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people who is a huge Majora's Mask fan. So if Nintendo is going the direction I hope they're going, kind of similar to how they followed up Ocarina of Time with Majora's Mask, I would love to see something, not that Breath of the Wild didn't have great story, but it was kind of like environmental storytelling as much as anything. If they could give us something more story-rich, just this more, I think intimate is a weird word. I don't want to go that strong, but just more of a closed-in kind of story, like really involved, close this generation of Nintendo with this saga ending story of some kind. Just really pull it in a bit. I don't need a world as big. But, of course, now that I say that, they'll probably give us one that's twice as big. But something more closed in, creepy, story-rich. That's what I'm going to go with.
Okay. What do you guys think about that, Josh?
Yeah, I was actually thinking, of course, a lot of Majora's Mask and Ocarina, how that dynamic worked out with this. And, just going off of that, I don't know, what was it, like 15, 20 seconds of a trailer we did see, it does look like it's probably taking place like in the same Hyrule, in the same castle, all of that sort of thing. I mean, for the most part, I don't know if you're going to be able to go through all of Hyrule again. I don't think there would be like a huge point to that, since I'm guessing it would be the same exact terrain. I don't know how that will work. I know with like Ocarina of Majora, of course, you're in two completely different worlds. So it's always possible even that could take place here. Like the trailer we saw, you start out in Hyrule and then you end up in some other land, or maybe sort of a Twilight or a Dark World version of Hyrule, so to speak. And maybe that's the sort of direction they're going for. Now, I will think this will be where Breath of the Wild, well, granted, it was completely new to the series, the direction they went with it. But I would think with this one, they would probably do something a little more experimental. Now that they have sort of set that tone, the way they did Breath of the Wild work, now they're going to do something sort of akin to the moon in Majora's Mask. Maybe not exactly that extreme or that pressing, but I'm expecting something different, some sort of gimmick, for lack of a better term, maybe.
Sorry to interject, but how awkward would it be if they were planning on doing a plague storyline?
Oh, yeah.
Like some disease going through.
I wonder if they continue with it at this point. Yeah, they probably would.
They'd probably scrap it. I don't know.
I never thought of that. That's kind of an interesting thought. I'm half expecting Zelda. I know a lot of people are expecting her to be playable, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're going to give that to us. I know a lot of people want that, and I'd be cool with it. But I'm almost have a feeling when I said something like a gimmick sort of deal that it's got to have something to do with her. Like if you think of Spirit Tracks, I know this is a completely different game, but she was a big part of that. But you were still Link. Like she helped. I'm almost wanting to think, maybe I'm just completely making stuff up in my head, but I'm almost wanting to, I could see them doing something akin to that where you're Link, but Zelda will play a part in it. You're just not going to be Zelda still, if that makes sense.
That's interesting. Well, I'll keep my thoughts. Ryan, what about you, man? What do you think? What do you think about what Eric said?
I definitely say like there's not a lot to draw from. But that's when your speculation can run wild. There's so much idea. I like that subterranean idea. I've heard things thrown out where maybe it's now that you've been like above Hyrule, maybe now we're going to go below Hyrule in caves, and maybe there's stuff underneath. There's talk of what if this ties into Twilight stuff? Maybe there's a dark world, a la Link to the Past.
Right.
There's also Link Between Worlds. Some people are speculating that as well. There's just some options there. If you have an overlay over Hyrule, but go into like a Twilight or Dark World, that's a cool thing that could happen. And as you've seen in Link to the Past, you've seen like the landscape drastically change. So it'd be kind of cool to see that drastic change in a Zelda game. And as far as where the story's going, it's hard to say. We saw what looked like a redead, for lack of a better term, a redead Ganondorf, and like weird spiritual hand, grasping at him like above, like his chest, like pulling him up or something. I don't know. It's very weird, a very weird scene, but definitely a hype turner. And I think we can look a lot to, Age of Calamity and seeing some characters, maybe even seeing some characters that will carry over from this. And that's something we can talk about a little bit. And, looking back to the prequel to Breath of the Wild before looking forward to the sequel. And perhaps that's another topic we can cover. But just in general, I've got my crazy theories, and there's a lot there that's just my own musings after thinking all this time. Like, you don't know much, not a lot. We know that Zelda has shorter hair. But other than that, we know there's a Ganondorf figure. We know that Zelda has shorter hair, and it seems to be there's a little bit of time passed at least. It's interesting going back and playing Breath of the Wild and seeing these story hints and story beat hints and stuff of things that weren't tied up in that game. That will be interesting to see them pick those up in either the prequel or the sequel. And it's weird to talk about both existing in the same, like knowing that both games are in development at the same time, a prequel and a sequel. It's I don't know of any video game that's done something like that.
Well, to follow up with that, I definitely got like creepier vibes. I feel like we're definitely going to get a darker story here. I don't think it's going to be as mysterious as what Breath of the Wild was. Like, when I remember seeing Breath of the Wild, I remember just wanting to know what happened. Like, why is everything in ruin? And now it's more of like, there's a mystery to it, but it's different. It's not like what happened. It's like I feel like that the source, they have figured out that there's a source of evil that is still alive that brought Calamity again into the surface, and they figured that out, and that's what they're looking for. Talking about like the hooks you think we'll have, people wanted temples that's something that was lacking from that game. People want back the original temples. I could see different segments. We'll be in, because they talked about you'll be in the same overall world of Hyrule. So I think you'll do a lot of traveling that way, but I feel like we're going to be discovering points of where temples are that lead underground in different areas of the map. So I could totally see that being a place of a direction they're maybe going to go with this. I'm curious to see how much has what landscapes are underneath the surface of Zelda from past Zelda games, because according to our records, this is like the latest Zelda game in the whole frickin' timeline. And we're talking thousands beyond thousands of years. So I'm curious if there's just ruins from old Zelda games that are underground at this point, just from the landscapes of how things have changed. And maybe that's why Ganondorf is underground. Maybe this is a Ganondorf from a long time ago. I don't know. Again, that's why this is a predictions episode. But talking about the hooks, I actually don't think Link's going to use I don't think he's going to use the runes at all that he had with the Sheikah Slate. I don't think he'll even have a Sheikah Slate because you look at the trailer, it's all focused about his hand. There's something going on with his hand, and it was like a green glow or something. I think there's going to be something screwed up with his hand, and I think his hand, along with his sword, is going to be like an extra source of, like, that's the hook. They're going to use whatever magical power he gets with his hand. That's they're going to use for him. Going back to what Josh said about Zelda, everyone wants Zelda to be a playable character. I could give or take it. She has the slate. I think she has the slate in her hands when they're looking down there. And she had the Sheikah Slate and the memories of Breath of the Wild, linked in it. So I could see us having to like do two different tasks, like with Link and with Zelda, like two different story bits. And I could see Zelda, you can actually controlling her, but she has the runes, and you have to travel, which is that familiarity from the first game. She doesn't have a sword, obviously, but I could see them somehow utilizing that. So I think we will have a combo of where you get to play some bits as Zelda, and some bits as Link. And maybe that's in temples. I don't know. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like certain, kind of like what Josh was referring to back in the old Zelda game. In the temples, you would go back and forth between Zelda and Link to maneuver. I could easily see them doing that with this. But yeah, I do think Link is not going to use the runes. I think whatever's happened to his hand is going to be the new hook in his hand to replace the Sheikah Slate. Because that's what Nintendo loves. Nintendo, even though like Majora's Mask used the same framework as Ocarina of Time, it had the hook was in the masks. That's what made it unique, was those masks. And I don't think Nintendo would just want to do the exact same thing. They're all about the gameplay. What makes this extra fun?
Sure.
Why not do something crazy with Link's hand? You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm feeling with that. What do you guys think?
To bounce off of that, actually, for a minute, that kind of gave me a thought. And again, there's this kind of going off of nothing I feel like we've seen, but perhaps like you could play as them both, but one's going to be, say, Zelda's more like puzzle focused oriented or something, and Link is more combat, something to that extent, or like one is in the dark world and the other is in the normal world, and what this one does over here is going to affect what happens over in this world. Something like that would be cool.
Actually.
Yeah, even from a story standpoint, like, I don't want to read too much into it, but like the Zelda with the shorter hair, and it calls back to, like in Breath of the Wild, the story looking at the princess struggling to come into her power, She wants to find her role, wants to find her place, and she feels inadequate. She has that power, she's cut her hair, she feels confident, she's this warrior princess really coming into her own destiny. She feels in control, and something happens, and she has to feel inadequate and realize that that's not what it's all for. It's not going to get her through this.
That leads for very interesting story bits. What you said about, to feed off what you said, Eric, about like you want more of an intimate story. I mean, that's really, I do want that. My biggest complaint with the first game was I didn't feel like I felt like the story was pretty weak. With the memories, it just, everything was just kind of choppy and loose ends, and that was my biggest disappointment outside the music. I didn't really feel like it had a very good soundtrack as a whole from what we've gotten from past Zelda games. Which, is going for something different. I think I want a deeper story. I want stuff exactly. I'm glad you said Majora's Mask, because that's exactly what I think we've talked about before, Josh. Like, we want that, like, I'm sad that we've never had another game with Majora as the villain. I think that would be freaking awesome to bring him back. Maybe he is in this game. Who knows?
Anything's possible. Who knows? Yeah, if we got something, just anything similar to the same vibe, I would be thrilled.
Oh man, well, it in Majora's Mask, what was really cool about that game was that the characters everyone you had to get masks with, like everyone had their own story, and as time moved every day, like those you could follow each and every character, and they did something in their path. And like literally the last mask you get, like one of the last ones you can get is that love story between that boy and the inn lady, and it's really if you really look into it, it's not a kid's game. It's actually very, very sad. I mean, and depressing. Like they get married. Spoilers. Literally, like minutes before their death, they get married and they're going to just put each other and die. And it's like, I want stuff like that back in this Zelda game. I want. Who knows what characters will be in it? But like you said, it kind of can segue here us into what. Now that we have Hyrule Warriors coming out with more an in-depth story of a prequel, we're seeing characters for the first time that we didn't know existed, and I'm putting money on it. I think this game is going to have some connection links, no pun intended, to Breath of the Wild 2 that kind of like fills in gaps that like, whoa, okay, so what is this to this? You know what I'm saying? Like this mysterious character that we were introduced to just a couple weeks ago. Like, who is that? And maybe that character has more to do with how Breath of the Wild 2 happens. The fortune teller, I think, is what people think it is, but
yeah, there is talk about. They mentioned in Breath of the Wild there's this fortune teller that forewarned them of Hyrule being besieged by just Ganon calamity coming again, and whether it is a character who is being a bit of a puppet master pulling strings to get the resurrection of Ganon to happen by spreading rumors on both sides, and causing them to dig up these giant,
mechs, maybe?
What's the word I'm looking for? Titan is not the right word. Divine beast. Yeah, digging
Guardians.
up the Guardians and the
Divine
Divine Beasts. And that was all part of the plan so that Ganon would have an army when he came to power. That could be that, or it could have been actually just innocent, like fortune tellers saying, "Hey, these bad things are going to happen." But I wonder if there's someone that's pulling these strings on both sides. When I saw that reveal of that character, that mysterious person working with the Yiga clan, a lot of people are trying to link that to like maybe the fortune teller. When I first saw him, I'm like, "That's Aghanim." That's that type of character. So cool. That also touches on a dark world. And that's linked to the past stuff. And I have not played Link Between Worlds, but a lot of people are saying that it's that villain from that has the gem on his forehead and Yuga. Yeah, that's something that someone's linking to there. And it'd be interesting to see some of these characters. Like in any three of these characters, I don't know much on the story of Yuga on what he does, but I know that Aghanim and Vati are interesting. We've never seen a case where Vati is working with Ganondorf. I don't think. Now, I felt like there was something there, but
I think in Force Swords or something.
They're very much different entities of their wanting their own power and stuff. So I don't know if it's going to be a Vati thing, if it's going to be Minish related. I don't see them going Minish, but it'd be interesting to go through Hyrule, make it even bigger by going tiny. That would be insane. But I can't even imagine like something like that, like a Breath of the Wild world, like quadruples in size
exponentially. Yeah,
it could take 6 months to traverse from one side to the other, but yeah,
that'd be so ridiculous. So initially my thoughts were like going underground. Maybe there's a whole world underneath, where these shrines popped up from. Maybe they did a bunch of excavation. Maybe there's something down below, subterranean. We don't know, and this could all be stuff could explore once we get down there. We'll see, like, oh yeah, the whole world was flooded at some point in time, so there's all these cities and stuff that were buried. And there could be like touches on Wind Waker, and this could be something that ties in a lot of the Zelda lore and kind of points to kind of a spotty roadmap to like the past eons, basically the way this timeline is going. But I'd like to see how Hyrule Warriors drops hints at the next sequel. I think it's going to feel very similar to Metroid. where we're getting hints of. We've had 2 Silex mentioned now in 2 different games, 2 different endings. There's also mention of these other Metroids, these other Chozo, Mysterious Chozo, and another Metroid game. So there's kind of these ideas of other characters, being at the forefront. So it'd be kind of cool to see like these hint of these characters making a comeback in Zelda series. And yes, that obscure character like Silex, from Metroid Prime Hunters, coming into the Metroid Prime line of things is about what you'd see between A Link Between Worlds and Yuga coming into this Breath of the Wild scene. Kind of a out there call, but also kind of really cool idea to see, especially if there is a low rule, and there's some kind of line drawn there. It'd be interesting. Like,
Low
can you
rules.
imagine a low rule Breath of the Wild?
Love it.
I was actually thinking, do you think we'll see any hint of the Triforce at this point? Because that's something that has always been a big mainstay for the most part, but Breath of the Wild didn't go there at all. So it makes me wonder if they're thinking about tying in more of the, overall Zelda lore, if that will come back into play in some form, especially if Ganondorf himself actually makes a return in some.
I hope so. I really do. That's one thing that irked me. I'm glad you said Ganondorf because it brought back what I was going to say. That's what irked me most about the game is I guess I'm a traditionalist when it comes to some things, and Breath of the Wild really. They left out so much about what makes Zelda, and to me, that's part of it is the music. I think of great music when I think of Zelda, and that first Zelda game was more. That wasn't what they were going for. Obviously, they were going for more atmospheric, light-sounding things. So I would love to see that improved. But you mentioned the Triforce. I don't want things to feel like you have hints of the founding grounds of where this is where Skyward Sword took place, when they came down onto the land and you had that whole area, and I want more just concrete, this represents this from the past Zelda games, not like a hint, or not like an odd, or what is that, an ode, what do you call it, an ode to something,
homage.
An Odie.
Yeah, they felt like that's what they tried to do. They were just trying to do that for a bunch of different Zelda games. I really would love to have some concrete stuff, just like that moment in Twilight Princess. In Twilight Princess, you have to go through the Lost Woods,
Cool.
and you find the old Temple of Time.
Yeah, that was cool.
Literally, from Ocarina of Time. And this has been hundreds, if not thousands of years, and this place has vegetation over it. And I think that's what was supposed. I think that was supposed to be the Temple of Time in Breath of the Wild, the same one.
You can tell.
Yeah, so I want that same thing.
It was
with other Zelda games than this one, and I think that would be really cool, and that including the Triforce and engaging with it more. And Josh, they very well may do that with Ganondorf being back. My question was, do you think Ganondorf is going to be this re-dead image, or do you think the Ganondorf is going to be more of a he's going to get his youth back and look like the Ganondorf we always know? Or maybe that's part of the story. Maybe he's trying to get his youth back, and he's got to, kind of like the Mummy, he's got to kill people to get his youth back. You know what I'm saying?
You went there. I've been seeing Tangled with my daughter. I was totally on a different train of thought. Anyway.
I really do think that we are going to see a Ganondorf restored at some point in the story. And I'd love to see a Breath of the Wild version of Ganondorf. It'd be really cool to see.
Yeah, I'm torn. Because it's so cool to have this moment where you walk into a temple, you recognize the temple, there's a huge arcing musical moment, you find the Triforce. Mm-hmm. I agree with all of that. Mm-hmm. My question, do you feel like Nintendo has kind of written themselves into a corner where there's an impossibly tight balance they have to strive for between satisfying all the old references while trying to do something new. Because I only say that because I don't think that's going to be Ganondorf. I think they're going to try and put a new character out there, but I wonder if it's going to land the same or be different. I don't know.
Ooh. That would be a twist.
I could, yeah, I could see that. I feel like with Breath of the Wild in general and the whole world they're building around it, from what little bit we've seen of the new Hyrule Warriors, it's its own world almost. It's its own entity, almost separate from the rest of Zelda. Not completely, but it definitely has its own feel. So I could almost see them doing that, especially considering with Breath of the Wild, Ganon was just sort of this big floating thing. Like, he wasn't much more of a character than he was in the original Zelda. You know, almost like he's just that big pig again instead of the man. Maybe I'm just saying it more out of being a longtime fan. I would personally like it to be Ganondorf, and it looks like it could be. You know, some of the features, but it could be something. It could be the character in the trailer for Hyrule Warriors. For all we know,
it might not even be a Ganondorf figure like everybody's speculating. It could even be actually Ganondorf returning to his original form, and what he was before that in Skyward Sword, which was Demise. And that Demise is, or Ganon, his line is the spirit of Demise. Curse basically.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see them make that. That's a very husked out skeletal Demise that they're bringing back.
Yeah.
That would be kind of a cool twist.
It would be nice to fight Demise without motion control.
Yeah.
yeah, without this part, you had to be there.
Yeah, you had to be there.
I liked it all.
You can't see me.
No, that's an interesting theory. I didn't think that it was. I mean, I just kind of assumed it was Ganondorf. It'd be interesting. It is kind of weird how, like, why is Ganondorf? Why is that image the one that's always reincarnated? I guess. Like, why couldn't it be somebody else that still takes on the spirit of Demise but looks differently? I never thought about that.
He's kind of not, though, because Ganondorf, I think, first pops up in Ocarina of Time, chronologically anyway. And then the timeline splits, and Wind Waker, he dies. And then Twilight Princess, I guess I'm spoiling some more games, I'm sorry, but he dies again over there. So he's dead in both those timelines, but he hasn't popped back up in either one of those timelines after that. At least as Ganondorf.
Ganon does pop up in that Twilight Princess timeline, but like Four Swords Adventure and stuff. But it's just but it's just absolutely. Ganon. The man's dead, maybe. Interesting.
So we're kind of dancing around like Ganondorf returning. What kind of enemies do we want to predict coming back? There was a lot absent from Breath of the Wild that I was really disappointed in. And so, like, what would you hope to see? Like, what is your number one pick you'd like to see come back to the Breath of the Wild world from the Legend of Zelda series?
King Dodongo. Giant lizards. We didn't have any of them. I mean, not really, did we?
No, not really. I mean, if you want to count
lizards, but not
if you want to count the divine beast
not that.
as a lizard, but that's not really quite the same thing.
Yeah, they were just absent from the game, and I thought that was odd. Maybe I feel like Eric, he kind of hinted at something. Side note, are you saying, like, did Nintendo write themselves into a corner? They kind of have, because they come out, they acknowledge the freaking timeline. Like, they make a timeline. They've said, "Oh yeah, we have 3 different timelines."
We have a plan.
And really, I think it's the fans fueled it way back when, and Nintendo ran with it to make money off of it, and because it is fun to connect them, and I love that. Like, that's what made me fall in love with this series, was how they all connected the games, and I think that they just didn't think about it when they originally started, and it's something that they tried to stitch together themselves. And the issue with this one is that they took elements from all the timelines that have only, until this game, had only been in those certain timelines. And my mindset was maybe there was like a merger, something that happened that brought all the timelines back in one alignment. Or it's Nintendo. Maybe, to Eric's point, maybe this is a whole new timeline. Maybe there's a fourth timeline in there that happens, and this is just another timeline that they'll be able to write off, or these events happened because of this, and who knows? But, you know, to your point, Eric, I do think that Nintendo has written themselves back into a corner, and it's kind of hard. They like to focus on gameplay and story, and then like, yeah, we'll figure that part out later, which...
Yeah. Maybe enemies could be one way of shaking hands with tradition. I have a couple quick thoughts on enemies. First, I want re-deads back. I want some kind of creepy undead thing that grabs you. You can't move. There's a weird screaming sound effect.
How about the chicken wing enemy? From the Shadow Temple.
I want
the well.
hands coming down from the ceiling, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But also, my thought is I would undead members of the races. So like you come across an underground Goron city, and now you have to fight like zombie Gorons.
Ooh,
or you come across like a subterranean water chasm, and now there's undead Zora you have to fight, like stuff like that.
Like that. Ooh, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Are we all in pretty much agreement this is going to be a darker story? A darker
Don't like that.
Are we
Ooh,
all
that's
in pretty
creepy.
much agreement this is going to be a darker
that's the
story, a
safe
darker
bet of all
timeline,
of them.
basically, idea. So
I think so. Yeah.
I think this is my number one complaint about Breath of the Wild enemies missing was the Skulltulas. I absolutely love them. I always think of them as a Zelda staple, and they just were completely absent from this game. It's like, oh, they would have been so cool to try to find the golden ones throughout this, this Hyrule. And I'm sure that was probably an early development idea, was that instead of the Koroks doing like Skulltulas. But I was just kind of disappointed they weren't there.
Well, I mean, all the enemies you guys keep bringing up, that they seem very creepy. And again, that trailer, it just led us to believe that a lot of stuff's going to be underground. I mean, in taverns, and all these characters could fit really well into underground. You go underground in the Goron area. Well, what if there are re-deads? Ganondorf looked like a re-dead in that trailer, and what if his mist, because he had all that mist coming right from him, and that was like seeping out, and maybe that is what's caused that mist. Still is like part of the calamity, and is what is the main source of what's causing evil afoot. That makes them come down and look for the source of this evil in the first place. So, ooh, that's good, guys. Josh, what about you, man? Any enemies you want to see brought back?
Something that's not creepy, I guess, just sort of as a throwback, is like the Deku scrubs. I never say that word right. I've always said it different. But anyway, just all of the Deku, what am I trying to say here? Everything around that, the scrubs, the tree, all of that sort of thing. It just kind of felt like a lot of that stuff was missing, outside of the Koroks anyway. Just something a little random. Threw off the top of my head.
Some witches. We never saw any witches in Breath of the Wild, did we?
Twin Ruva.
Oh,
Twin
yeah.
Ruva would be awesome to see again.
Yeah.
See them.
Yeah, those two are like Ganondorf's surrogate mothers, weren't they? So I wonder how that would tie into that. They're probably far dead.
It would be cool to see somehow witches tied into an open world atmosphere, and you get chased by a witch or something. You have to figure out what to do. That would be cool. And there's no werewolves either.
Oh, yeah, werewolves. Haven't seen those in a while.
Werewolves or the skeleton dudes that come up at night when the moon goes down.
Yeah, the Stalfos.
Yeah. Well, that's not true. There were skeletons in Breath of the Wild. I take that back.
There were.
There were.
The bokoblins that were skeletons. They had those did come back. But that's something that we'd like to see. And I guess that is kind of the same thing. That is the Breath of the Wild equivalent of what we saw in Ocarina. Would you guys have any desire to see a pea hat come back? Yeah, I think that's probably my least.
I thought about that.
pea hats are those
I
plants
don't need
in
it,
Hyrule, in Ocarina, in the Hyrule, and also in Majora's Mask, the spinning blade plants, like kind of like a pineapple with blades on the end of it.
Oh yeah, no, we can forget those existed.
kind of weird. They got the little.
I
Anyhow,
forgot all about those guys. Those guys, I don't even know why they're there.
Oh, they're beautiful. I love them.
We need the random holes down the caverns. I hope we find some like random cows.
Oh yeah, underground
It's like
cows.
we need to find a hole.
Yeah.
Like, why is there a cow down here?
And now
then
you can
just
kill
leave.
it and cook it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
oh gosh.
Do we think there's any chance at all they're going to see some of these other villains pop up, or even hints of them, like with what's his name, Zant, that type of style? Maybe an evil Twilight character. Maybe Majora. We'll see a Majora entity. Happy Mask Salesman. Are we going to see that guy? That would be awesome.
That'd be interesting.
I would
I
love
want
to see
masks.
Majora in particular, but I feel like you couldn't bring someone like that back without a big fanfare. Like they couldn't just make a quick cameo to go back and focus on the real villain, like as one of the
And you
bosses
could
or
probably
something.
mark off, Majora's Mask as an option just because it was DLC mask that you could wear in Breath of the Wild. But then again, they could just say, "Oh, that wasn't
So is this
canon or something." I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think Majora might be an unrealistic expectation to have, but probably won't happen. I think something more within the realm of possibility would be a new version of Dark Link that you have to fight. I think that could be in play.
Interesting.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
really cool to see him back. That's my favorite skin in in Smash Brothers
Dark
is to
Link.
be
There you
the
go.
Dark
Version.
Link of any version of Link. So I'd be game with that.
It's really hard to bring Majora back simply because the stories were so separate. I mean, it wasn't even in Hyrule. It was a completely different land. As much as I want them to, I would love for them to revisit that. I would love to see Majora somehow come back. And you got to think the events of Majora's Masks and the events of Breath of the Wild, like they're thousands of years apart. So who knows where that mask is now in the Zelda universe. But I'd like to see it happen. But I do agree with Eric. I don't think we're going to see anything of Majora in this. Seeing someone like Zant, the closest I think we're going to see is I think that fortune teller guy is going to somehow still be around or resurrected and brought back. And I think that's what you're going to see is like kind of like Ganondorf's little handyman, like his like Bowser's Kamek Koopa, you know what I mean? Koopa, like that is going to be his little guy.
Who he uses to bring himself back and then kills off because he doesn't need him anymore,
Yeah.
basically. I think maybe to kind of wrap up some of my thoughts, I think a lot of us, at least speaking for myself, sort of want that weird dark story again that we've seen every once in a while, again akin to Ocarina, to Majora, things like that, where they've set the tone, they've set that world, that land. Now I want them to get a little weird with it, creep me out a little bit.
Gosh, could you just imagine in such a vast world and like you're being stalked by some figure creature and they could just go wild with the story now. It would be amazing. I would love that. I'm 100% on board with that. So I guess overall it just kind of seems like we're predicting something very dark, very weird. We're hoping that they kind of dip back more into like Zelda traditions with like elements that they bring back to this game that weren't there in the last one. And we just want a deeper story. Like we want a story that is just more fulfilling. Doesn't leave me with questions or leave me still hungry.
One thing I really liked, it brings up a good point with the story. Like it ended off on a sour note, a bit of like that's it. With
terrible.
Breath of the Wild. But then, to know that there was a sequel, and I wonder if it was always planned for there to be a sequel and there to be a continuation of that story, but people didn't really know that or didn't have any hints or anything. So, it's really cool to see that there is more story. Like, that wasn't the end. It kind of ended off on a sour note, and this is kind of picking back up and, like, going on into more story. And I think as a whole package with the prequel, Breath of the Wild, and its sequel, all of it telling this really long story, it's just going to be epic once we get the full picture. And I like that Breath of the Wild was not the full picture, and a lot of people thought that wasn't great, but it was worth telling it that way so that when you actually get to experience the whole 3-part epic, like, it'll be just an amazing package all tied together.
Super quick story. I have a 16-year-old nephew, and maybe a year and a half ago, he finally got a Switch, and he got Breath of the Wild. And for the past 18 months, all he does is play Breath of the Wild. Like, he's obsessed with it. He loves it. He looks up all the glitches, and he can speed run it, like all this stuff. And so he's a newer fan. He doesn't realize that Zelda can be a story-rich, like, really a game in that way. So I cannot wait.
That's sad.
I can't wait for his mind to be blown. Like, he is going to love the sequel, whatever happens. But, like, for him to realize, oh my gosh, there is some story here. Like, these characters have more to them. I'm excited for him. It'll be fun.
That's exciting for me. Yeah, I love to just see other people experience something that we have before, and for the first time, it's really enriching. That's really cool. Overall, I think that's just kind of what we're hoping for, is a more rich story at the end of the day, something that really just fills us, makes us satisfied, with what they're trying to do.
I did want to ask, do we think there's going to be any kind of power-ups, like traditional Zelda? Like, with the dungeons, there would be traditional, like, items that you would get instead of the runes. Are we going to get more of a traditional Zelda experience,
Maybe
or is it going to be more of the
hand.
open world still?
That hand, I'm telling you, this just sounds so out there, but if that hand, you look at the artwork that they had, like, they had some crazy artwork ideas for Breath of the Wild. Like, they had him with a guitar once, they had him with aliens, like, I could totally see this hand being kind of like a transformational item, I don't know, like, that hand, maybe when you go through if they have temples and you go through temples, maybe that hand acquires some kind of new ability to
unlock
feed back
finger
into the old Zelda games, like, the hand now can, like, help you climb better up walls or certain areas, or maybe, like, gives you, like, a thrust on the ground if it, like, can hit really hard or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, and bounces you up. I don't know. I could see something like that, maybe.
Okay, you've just opened up a whole other can of worms. What do we think they're going to do with Amiibo?
They're going to re-release all the old ones, and they're going to have a whole new line just for this game of brand new Zelda Amiibo. Because they only care about Zelda, apparently, when it comes to Amiibo.
Something like that, yeah. We got a couple of Metroid, but, Zelda is where they put most of their stuff.
Oh my gosh, they released so many when Breath of the Wild came out. I bought them all, too.
Yep,
Every single
I
one.
finally got them all. It took me a while. Toon Zelda was my last one.
Well, I guess that's just kind of rounding out our predictions for this. We could be completely way off, and we'll find out. I bet. I guess maybe one last prediction here, guys. When do you think this game's actually going to get here? Honestly, when do you think this game is going to show up?
I think it's going to be holiday next year. Personally.
Holiday next year. Okay.
Yeah.
Josh, what do you think?
Same thing, honestly. I'm thinking it's going to make it probably around that November time or so of next year.
Eric,
hopefully.
what about you, man?
You know what? I hate to be bold. It says holiday 21.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it could be 2022, but I would say no later than that.
I would say assuming everything goes according to plan. I mean, we don't know how much COVID has impacted it. We don't know what else is next year.
Sure.
But I think if everything goes smoothly, holiday 2021.
I think you guys can call me nuts, but I think we will get a Switch Pro, and they're just going to do a second launch just like they did a Switch Pro. I think it's going to come middle of the year. Spring to early summer. Maybe not in that what was it February when the Switch originally came out? February, March.
March. Yeah.
I
March.
could see them maybe more like April or May-ish because of COVID stuff. But I think it's going to come out with the Switch Pro earlier in the year and just be the hot topic that everyone's talking about when nothing else is going on in gaming. So that's what I think is going to happen.
I'm curious if they're not going to do a Switch Pro with Breath of the Wild 2, mainly because I think that in order to give a justified boost to a revered system, like they launched Breath of the Wild with the Switch, like that was a huge boost to Zelda. Not that it needed it, but I think that launching a Pro system along with Metroid Prime 4 would be a huge system seller. And also, but not just that, but a huge Metroid seller to bring up the sales of the Metroid series and breathe life into it, have more people experience that.
I don't disagree. No way.
But yeah, I mean, it could come along Breath of the Wild too. I just don't know if they'll have to halt things or change things to upgrade, Breath of the Wild 2 to a better spec Switch. I don't know. It's hard to say when they started that development process. I don't know if they've said anything in interviews or anything like that. But, we can't rule out these other characters in Breath of the Wild. One, showing up, like, you've got, what is it, Robbie and, her name is escaping me. The old young chick.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Can't think of her name.
Pura, that's right, yeah. We'll probably see some of that and some probably more Sheikah stuff. Probably that one girl that works with Sheik, is going to probably maybe step up into her role as a Sheikah. We might see that. There's some characters that we can see like become a part of that from Breath of the Wild. I don't want to just discount, focus on Zelda and Link and the stuff that we know, but there's also these other characters that could play a part. Maybe even some of the children or the successors to the champions, maybe they'll have some role here too. Who knows?
I was actually going to say the Breath of the Wild 2 sequel might actually be very different from the first, as in like we're probably not going to see any divine beasts. No divine beasts at all. If it goes the route we're saying, I bet there's no really much interaction with divine beasts, and I bet that champions are barely mentioned either. Because at this point, they came back, they did their duty, they killed Calamity Ganon, and they're done with that, And
that's interesting. Yeah, what are the champions going to be doing? There's just nothing. They're just on vacation now.
Yeah, I think their souls are resting in peace now. Finally,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it could really just be a whole new situation. Heck, you go back to your Redead thing. Maybe their bodies are turned into Redeads, and you got to fight the champions and they're the villains.
See, that'd be cool. Sure.
Oh my! We just Nintendo send us our checks in the mail, please. Please. Good material here. So. But I think that's pretty good, guys, for this topic. And our fans, guys, leave a voicemail on our hotline. We'll leave the number here, or write us, email us. We want to hear your thoughts. What do you think? What do you think about our predictions? Do you think we're nuts? Do you think we're spot on? Just communicate with us. We haven't been pushing that much lately, but we want to get that up, and we want to interact with all you guys. So. But Eric, you're also here to because you have your own stuff that you do on the side, and you and I, we interact on Twitter from time to time, and you, my friend, have created your own video game. And I wanted you to just explain to us about that game and where people can find you and stuff as well, and what it's coming out on and what the game's about.
Sure, I'll do as quick as I can, a little summary. I couldn't join in the earlier conversation about what I've been playing because I've been busy making my own game instead of playing other ones. So it's for Windows PC on October 28th. Small, cozy, strange little game. It's about a spider named Webster who lives in a world with many flies. Too many, someone might say. So it's mostly a 2D platformer like your classic Mario or Sonic. It's kind of in the NES 8-bit style, limited colors for the sprites and things, relying just as much on charm as gameplay. So you'll see if you try it out, but it's only $3. What do you have to lose, But you can find me on Twitter. My name is Eric Bailey, and if you go on Twitter and look for Eric Bailey, it's the one with the middle Victor, so Eric V. Bailey. The game will be on Itch.io, the indie game store. My developer page there is Tiny Bookshelf, so some of Eric Bailey, Tiny Bookshelf, Octobug will bring you anywhere in the arena.
It's cool.
I see there's a release date trailer on YouTube, so I'll definitely have to check that out.
It looks fun. Do you have any plans to try to bring that to Switch?
The short answer to that great question is probably not. If for some reason it truly does take off and I become the next indie band, it can happen. There is a route it can go to get there, but it's not one that's available to me at this time. I will put it that way. So if you want it on Switch, we got to drive up sales and make it happen.
Yeah,
let's drive up sales and make it happen,
Get it on
guys.
Switch.
I mean, I would love to get it on Switch, and we have had other indie developers on our show, like our good friend Matt, and who lives in Europe, and I know that they're getting stuff on Switch, and we'd love to help you out, Eric, as much as we can, and you guys, our listeners here, go get your PCs on and go check out this game. And it sounds very interesting and fun. From the trailer I watched, it looked fun. I believe I would have a good time with it.
I saw a cat paw.
Yep, there's cats in it. So it's a cozy little game. It's not going to be your next Call of Duty, but I think it'll make you smile.
Yeah.
Put it that way. But also, guys, just thanks for letting me hang out tonight. I appreciate you staying up late, having me, letting me talk about it. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, no problem, man. Thank you so much for joining us. And before we, guys, you know what? I have to just mention this before we close out. I totally forgot to Radical Rex about one thing tonight. And that is, I got my first 4-figure Banjo-Kazooie statue.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like the biggest thing. It's like the biggest thing I have, and I didn't even say it. I ordered 2 years ago my Banjo-Kazooie, the premium Banjo-Kazooie statue. I never thought I'd pay money for a statue like this, and I did my payments over the last 2 years.
2-year wait, wow.
Yeah, and it took them a long time to make it, and then it took them forever for it to ship here. It shipped from Hong Kong on a giant boat, and then was in Seattle, and slowly moved its way across America over the last 2 weeks, and then my local FedEx stores kept delaying it and wanted a signature and kept missing me, and finally got here today. You know what's kind of funny too is that like my girlfriend actually came over to my place to sign it for it in case it showed up, and she said that they didn't even make her sign for it. She just heard them there. The box was outside, and the FedEx person was leaving, and I was like, what the heck?
Wow.
So all this frustration, and it said on my app that someone signed for it, and she's like, I did not sign for that package. So someone lied. I'm guessing it was the driver. But I got it, and it looks awesome. It's $400 sitting on top of my shelf in my bedroom. And my kids helped me. That was a cool memory I did to talk about kids. I let them, as scary as it was, I let a 4-year-old and almost 2-year-old help me unpack this $400 thing. Because you have to put a couple pieces together. But it was so cool. I made such a great memory with them. And I hope that, especially Riley, remembers it. Like, Riley started, humming the Banjo-Kazooie Spiral Mountain theme song.
Oh, wow.
And the intro song. Fun. And it was just like, that was so heartwarming. Mm-hmm. And they loved it, you know. So I was very blessed for that. So I just had to mention. I normally would not do that since I forgot about it, but that's literally like the biggest thing I'm radical rexing about with this because of today, you know.
Definitely,
so.
Good fun moment.
But Josh, why don't you do our due diligence, brother, and tell everybody where they can find us.
Sure. So we are all over social media, of course. So on Twitter, you can find us at Nintendo_NOS. You can find us on Facebook at Nintendo Nostalgia, and also join the Facebook group over there if you get the chance. It is The Nintendo Nostalgia Group. That's a pretty great name, isn't it? I don't know where I was going with that. So, also in Instagram, we'll post there periodically as well. As for myself, usually on Twitter. It's the best place to find me at Whopper744Games. And stream every once in a while. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a really fun topic for sure, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. And go support Eric and follow him as well, too. Everyone, have a blessed one. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Later, Preston.
Bye-bye.